the speed. Touchdown.
Welcome into the latest episode of Mac and Mose. Andy McNamara joined by the editor of GoDucks.com, Rob Mosley. We are here to wrap up game number 9 already for the Oregon football team here in 2015. The Ducks now currently on a 3-game winning streak. And Rob, had I gone to you on Saturday afternoon before kickoff and said Oregon's going to throw 2 red zone interceptions, they are going to have 2 punts blocked.
Yeah.
What is the outcome of this game?
Yeah, I think as Coach Helford told the team afterward, that was like, winning the lottery and seeing Halley's Comet all on the same on the same night. With just how unlikely both those things are, and to still come out with a victory. It was like just having the 2 interceptions in the red zone. He said it was like a 90-something% chance of defeat. So to overcome that and win, kind of going away, it felt like got a little dicey at the end again, but. It really spoke to, I think, particularly offensively, the level of the way they were moving the ball, but defensively too, the way they kind of frustrated Jared Goff and kept him from beating him.
Jared Goff is projected as a top pick, maybe the top quarterback coming out of college this year in the NFL draft. And based on that and that knowledge, the way that the Oregon secondary was able to perform in this one, they had some opportunities that they sort of let slip by. There were a few balls that probably certainly could have been intercepted. I'm not going to say should have been, but were there for the taking. There was a play where Reggie Daniels went up to try to make an interception. He jumped a little too early. It was a slightly underthrown ball. It ended up in an 80-yard touchdown. Now, not that I would say I'm fine with 80-yard touchdowns, but I actually I liked seeing Oregon's defensive backs, maybe, I don't want to say gamble, but take some chances, try to make some plays. And I felt like they did this in this game. Arion Springs was glue on his guys. When they were in single coverage, Tyree Robinson had a couple of really good plays, had a couple of really nice passes defended. This unit, if you just came into the season right now and watched that game, you'd be like, hey, this secondary is pretty good.
Yeah, and we were talking actually during practice earlier today, on Monday, as the Ducks are getting ready for a Stanford game, that it's sort of like the offensive line when there were some injuries a season ago. When Tyrell Crosby and Matt Pearson were pushed into the lineup early last season, it was dicey for a couple of games. I mean, you can remember, Washington State, for instance. I mean, the Cougars really got after Oregon in that game. But over the ensuing weeks, that line really gelled, and now Matt Pearson and Tyrell Crosby are just afterthoughts because they're such established veterans and starters. And so we're seeing the same thing with the secondary this year. They are starting to come together, and it was a sink or swim night for them against Cal, because we've heard so much about how Oregon tried to simplify the defense to kind of limit some of the breakdowns that were just killing them early on because of youth. And against Arizona State, just the repetition, because of the defense was simplified, was taken advantage of by the Sun Devils. So they had to add some things back in out of necessity against Cal and against Goff, knowing that he'd take advantage of that maybe even better. But the guys handled it. There was if some of the miscommunication had cropped up again, it might have been a disastrous night. But as you point out, they've progressed to the point where they were able to handle running a few more things, throwing a few more coverages at him, trying to disguise a little bit more, and it paid off.
The defensive line didn't have the sack total that they've had in recent games, but they were able to pressure Goff, make his life difficult. They hit him a few times. DeForest Buckner did have one of the sacks. It was a big play. It ended up keeping Cal to a field goal on a drive. So the defense, when they play like that, when they're able to get stops against an offense that can move the ball and score points, it allows the Oregon offense maybe a little bit more room to make mistakes. Against Arizona State down the stretch, you felt like Oregon had to score every single time they possessed the ball. Now that's a perfect case scenario. Every week you want to score every time you possess the ball, but it's unrealistic. And the fact that the defense was able to make some stops early in this game after spotting Cal that 10-point lead, I think that really gave the offense time to find their rhythm. And then 28 points in the second quarter, they were really able to just completely quash what was a very slow start for them. It's
definitely symbiotic. I mean, both sides kind of feed off each other. I thought that the responses to the interceptions the offense threw were great. The block punts, you're backed up, they're in their own territory, in your territory already. Hard to keep touchdowns off the board in that case. But, to limit, to field goals, after the punts, after the interceptions, not let Cal totally shift the momentum by making a big play defensively and then make another one offensively, I think was really big, because you never really felt, after Oregon made up for that early 10-0 deficit, you never really felt again like the momentum was truly threatened. Again, late in the game, I think because of what Washington State was able to do in Autzen Stadium, when Cal scores that 80-yard touchdown, you think, okay, are they going to finish? And they did finish, and so kept, again, kept Cal from really establishing any sort of momentum.
I want to give some kudos to Aiden Schneider, the place kicker for the Ducks in this one, when Oregon falls behind 10-0. A big play by the defense to limit them to a field goal to make it 10 instead of 14-0. Oregon drives down the field and they're unable to score, but they ask their kicker to make a 41-yard field goal. And I felt like that was a drive where the Ducks needed points. Yeah, you want a touchdown, but any kind of points. And a couple of years ago, I think they probably go for it on fourth down there, as opposed to trying that 41-yard field goal, because they didn't feel as comfortable. Aiden Schneider's missed one kick this year. He missed one kick last year. I mean, this guy is as reliable as it gets, and it's a great asset to have, to be able to count on him in a spot like that. It's early in the game. Might not have maybe seemed as big to others as it did to me at the time, but I just felt like that was a big sort of momentum. It didn't kill Cal's momentum, but it just sort of stalled it long enough for the Ducks to get back into
things.
This.
Sort of stabilized. I mean, yeah. I got some people asking me during the game, why isn't Oregon going for it on fourth down? The Chip Kelly era, they established such an aggressive tone, and I think Mark Helfrich likes to pick his spots just a little bit more. He's a little bit more conservative than Chip. Still wants to have an attack mentality and probably go for it on fourth down more than the average team, but. Again, I think in that situation just sort of stabilized things, because if you don't get any points and Cal, is driving with the chance to go up 17-0, then you're really in trouble. We referenced earlier kind of percentile chances of winning and losing. Another one that Mark Helfrich cites often is, if you go down 2 touchdowns, you're in a lot of trouble. So, that would have been a risk there. But Schneider makes that field goal. I mean, he's of kickers with more than 10 field goal attempts in this season, he leads the nation. I think he's 16-17 now. So, a really probably underappreciated, unsung guy. Particularly as the offense over the last few weeks has had times when they struggle to punch it in.
The only real blemishes on Vernon Adams' stat sheet were the red zone interceptions, and he talked about that after the game, needing to clean that up, and that's unacceptable. He still totaled 5 touchdowns, 4 through the air, 1 on an acrobatic run. Was able to use Darren Carrington again, just 4 catches in the game for Carrington, but he still goes over 100 yards. We believe he's the first Oregon receiver ever to have 5 straight 100-yard receiving games. We're still digging back through the archives to verify that, but it looks pretty promising that's the case. He's been a great weapon. Braylon Addison had a couple touchdowns in this one, the second where he got physical, which you don't often see from Braylon, where he uses his speed to his advantage. This time he used some toughness as well and was able to get to the end zone. So that part of the game really in recent weeks has performed since Adams has come back into the fold healthy. The running game, though, in this one, not only was it Royce Freeman, but it was, or Kenai Benoit, who's broken out recently. It was Taj Griffin. It was Tony Brooks-James. And we talked earlier today about Tony Brooks-James. To me, he's the closest thing, I think, to LaMichael James that Oregon has had since LaMichael left. And it may sound like too high of praise for a guy who's basically number 4 on the depth chart, but just the way he runs and his explosiveness, and if he keeps getting touches like he got against Cal, he's going to have the 80-yard touchdown run that has sort of been lacking from this offense the last couple of years.
Yeah, because he has the speed once he gets into the open field to outrun anybody. I mean, he was on Oregon's national champion track and field team, member of the short relay. So we know he's got the wheels. He's a guy who's dinged up early in the season, so it took him a while to get going. Taj Griffin had been dinged up more recently. Didn't have any carries against Arizona State, but now everybody's healthy, and when the Ducks run a ton of plays as they did against Arizona State, Royce Freeman can't carry the ball every time. 29 carries, despite how much the backups played against Cal, and that 29 Gary Campbell thought was a little bit too high of a number. I think they'd like to keep Royce closer to 25, between 20 and 25 carries in a game. And going forward, based on the way everybody else ran the ball against Cal, if they're in a situation where the Ducks are running a ton of plays again, I think Coach Campbell's going to have even more confidence that he can turn to those other guys. And then it just feeds off it because Royce is now fresher, so when he is in the game, he's even that much more effective. So I'll be interested to see, as we begin to peek ahead to the Stanford game. Obviously, Royce is your guy and you want to use him more, but maybe Gary Campbell is going to have a little bit more confidence inserting a Tony Brooks-James or a Kenai Benoit here or there, just for the sake of keeping Freeman fresh and seeing the benefits of that.
We'll have to see also how Stanford comes out against Oregon. I think they're going to come up with a game plan on their defensive side of the ball. They obviously will look at this game against Cal. They'll see the 777 yards of total offense, which was a school record, the four-headed running back attack, Vernon Adams' efficiency, and try to plan for it. But yeah, I agree with you. I think that if anything, it gives Gary Campbell more confidence. Not that he wasn't confident in these guys before, but he even brought it up today at post-practice during interviews, how this was a conference game. This was a Pac-12 game, and it was on the line at times when he was using all four guys, and something that typically he wouldn't do. But now
couldn't recall ever doing that.
Yeah, so now that he truly knows what these guys can do under the bright lights, it should give Oregon's offense more versatility.
The other thing I'll be looking for against Stanford, I guess we already have started peeking ahead, even though we'll look forward to that game in more depth later on this week. But is how they choose to pressure Adams. What they do with their pass rush, because you saw Arizona State is the most aggressive team in the conference, and they were disrupting the pocket quite a bit. And so Vernon Adams was getting outside, throwing on the run, and we saw how effective that was, most notably, obviously, on the fourth down throw to Dwayne Stanford that forced overtime in the Arizona State game. I thought Cal wasn't able to get as much pressure. There was a nice pocket there for Vernon Adams a lot of the night. I wondered if Cal just said, hey, just contain him. Don't let him get outside of the pocket. He's a shorter guy, so we might have a hard time seeing if he's in the pocket. And also, he's so great on the run when plays break down. Just don't give him that opportunity. But that backfired. Best laid plans. Adams, when he was given time, we saw a touchdown pass to Dwayne Stanford, one of the ones to Braylon Addison. The long second down throw to Darian Carrington prior to Vernon's rushing touchdown. He just had all day, and he didn't even see Darren, I don't think, but he had long enough to look up again and find him. So, Arizona State's over-aggressiveness didn't work. Cal's seeming lack of aggressiveness didn't work. I wonder what Stanford's going to choose to do as they try to disrupt Vernon Adams' rhythm, because he's certainly in a great rhythm right now.
Oregon is the victor against Cal in this one, 44-28. As I mentioned, 3 straight wins for the Ducks, 6-3 now overall in the season, 4-2 in conference play. They haven't lost a game in regulation since September, so it's. The picture is getting brighter for this team. They're going to be heavy underdogs against Stanford, and a lot of that has probably more to do with Stanford than Oregon. It's a home game for them. They're unbeaten in conference play, and they're unbeaten since their first game of the season, which was an out-of-conference road game. So Stanford, very confident. You have to feel like Oregon, despite maybe, getting punched in the gut, or I forget what Coach Helfrich said exactly, punching themselves.
He said they kicked themselves in the gut.
Themselves in the gut, which is pretty, you got to be pretty flexible to do that. So that's impressive. But despite that, able to overcome it. They're going to be confident going into this matchup against Stanford, and they're certainly going to be focused on trying to clean up those things as we get even later in the season. Pac-12 North is still up for grabs, at least until this game is over. We'll know a little bit more. The Ducks obviously have to win. They also need some help after that fact, if that was to come to pass, for them to contend for the Pac-12 title, but still plenty to play for here this season. Rob and I will preview the Stanford-Oregon game more in depth later in the week on the next Mac and Mose. In the meantime, you can get to us on Twitter. I am at McNamara UO. He is at Duck Football. Until next time, we'll see you.
Gets the corner into the end zone for the touchdown. It's through 50. He's got the speed. Touchdown.